It's time to double dip into some Final Fantasy news because I love Final Fantasy, man. It's so fun to talk about. I should just make this whole channel Final Fantasy and only Final Fantasy. And Tomb Raider, and Life is Strange, and Persona, and Kirby, and Fire Emblem, and Halo. You know, never mind. We'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Anyways, Final Fantasy XVI. Interesting game. A game that I wasn't the biggest fan of. After playing through it right now a second time over, though, I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more. It's still not up there with like the best of Final Fantasies, though, but I can appreciate more of what Square Enix was trying to do with the direction and the approach they had to this game. But suffice it to say, I don't think it necessarily clicked with me, and apparently it didn't click with a lot of other people, because if this recent report is to be believed, Final Fantasy XVI did bad. Like, it did really poorly. And yeah, well, let's talk about the sales numbers now for Final Fantasy XVI. There is this sales analysis dude named Hideki Yasuda, and sorry if I butchered your name, but he has dug up and basically reported that Final Fantasy XVI on both the PlayStation 5 and PC, the total sales number for this game, and it is apparently only at 3.5 million units sold. 3 million of those sales come from the PlayStation 5 version of this game, and only 500,000 come from the PC version of this game. And my first instinct, honestly, was that can't be right. That just doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't that sound like off to you? Because, like, yeah, sure, I mean, 3 million on the PlayStation 5 or whatnot, but this game's been out for, what, almost a year now on PC? 500,000. There's just something that just feels off about this number to me, and I can't quite explain it. But I feel like we're not getting the whole story here, or Square Enix hasn't officially announced the sales numbers as of right now, but it just doesn't sound right to me. Having said that, whether or not I think the 3.5 million is the sales number, though, isn't important. What is important is the fact that even if this game was at 5 million or 6 million units currently sold, it would still be a disappointment to Square Enix. This is the type of game that's one of those hundreds of millions of dollars to create type of game, and it's a mainline entry for a Final Fantasy. So Square Enix was banking on this game at minimum probably of hitting that 10 million units sold mark, because a lot of their games, traditionally speaking, especially in the mainline entry now, hit that mark and they sell a lot of money. So yeah, even if this game sold 6 million or doubled its number from 3.5 to 7, it would still probably be a disappointment, and that much I do believe. I do believe Final Fantasy XVI has well underperformed for Square Enix's expectations, which means it's probably costing them a lot more money than they wanted to admit. But I'm not surprised by this, because right when this game was announced and when people found out that it was going to be more action focused, there was a divide in the fanbase on whether or not this was a good thing or a bad thing. Some people were all for the action-packed Final Fantasy games that we've been still receiving lately. Other people were saying that this Final Fantasy should have been more turn-based focused, which honestly, I'm fine either way. I personally prefer more turn-based, but Final Fantasy for a long time now hasn't been a turn-based franchise. I mean, Final Fantasy 12 wasn't, 15 wasn't, Type 0 wasn't, the theater spin-off games aren't, those aren't either, but that's not here nor there. The Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't turn-based, and neither is Rebirth. Final Fantasy XVI isn't turn-based. You know, they're more action-based than they are turn-based. But regardless of how you feel, it did divide the fan base, and then a lot of people played it, and while it did critically, you know, based on critic reviews, it did really well, a lot of the fans also, when they played the game, were divided on whether or not they enjoyed it or not. And like I said, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I wanted to enjoy it. I appreciate what they were doing, but at the end of the day, I think this is the main reason why Final Fantasy XVI just didn't sell that well. If everybody that played it loved it and the fans were screaming over the moon for it, I think it would have bolstered the sales. but a lot of people tried it, and while many did in fact love the game, a lot of people said it just wasn't for them, and I'm one of those people. Having said that, and this is kind of the unfortunate part of this whole thing, is Final Fantasy XVI though gave us the blueprint and gave us a great stepping stone, I think, to help push the action style of Final Fantasy forward. Just for example, from what I'm talking about here, while I did enjoy the combat, it felt really repetitive for me and I got tired of it by halfway through the entire game. Having said that, what if they added the ability to be able to switch your teammates? Like, instead of playing as just Clive, you could jump to Torgal and jump to Jill, kind of like what you do in Final Fantasy VII, the remake series. Or have status effects actually impact and have that be a thing. Have elemental damage, do that and be a thing. Make the quick time events more interesting other than have what feels like an infinite amount of time to push a single button to have this cool crazy action sequence. Make it a little bit more, you know, since they kind of went towards the Devil May Cry approach, make those quick time events more Bayonetta-esque, where you're mashing a bunch of buttons at once and you hit another button, hit another button, hit another button to cause the sequence. You know what I'm saying? Make it more interesting that way, but they have it. They have a lot of potential for this game, but I don't know if they will now. They might see the sales numbers here and say, flip the script, we're going to go turn-based next time and make the fan base happy. But again, that won't make the fan base happy unless you're pushing the turn-based formula forward. Thankfully, we might have some good ideas with that new game Clair Obscur Expedition 33 coming out. Then that one seems like it's trying to improve the turn-based formula. But all the same, it doesn't matter what direction or approach Final Fantasy takes for their next mainline entry. What matters is, what are they doing to make it more memorable, and what are they doing to move the genre forward? Because that, in my opinion, is kind of what Final Fantasy has always been about. It's about them trying to always progress the genre, move it forward, and have people enjoy it and see where they're going with it. I mean, you look at something like 7, it introduced the materia system. You had 8, it tried to introduce the junction system. 9, you went back to having 4 people and it was more traditional, but they had the AP system in there. They were doing different things. And 10, just being able to swap out your party members. Oh, baby, I remember being able to do that. I was just thinking, why hasn't this been here sooner? It was so revolutionary for Final Fantasy fans. So yeah, they're always trying to progress and move things forward and do that sort of thing. And they did try it with Final Fantasy XVI. I just think now they have the potential to really do that if they choose to go action-based, but they might not do that now just because these sales numbers, they weren't good, man. No matter how you look at it, this game did not sell well. And that, unfortunately, is a big loss for not just Square Enix, but for Final Fantasy fans everywhere. But let me know what you think about this. I just wanted to talk about this because I just thought it was interesting. I know it's about a week old, but I wanted to discuss it because, like I said, I love Final Fantasy, and who doesn't like to have back-to-back days of Final Fantasy discussions, right? So yeah, let me know what you think. As always, take care of yourself. I'm Bradley Overrated, out like a trout. Praise be to Evan, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.